Hello guys and welcome to today's live interview. I'm here today with Rob Wilcocks. Rob is an award-winning financial advisor, independent financial advisor from London. He's actually voted top 1% of all independent wealth managers working in the UK. And he's frequently featured in the Telegraph and the Times. Today I'm with Rob for an interesting discussion where we're going to be talking about how many of us are actually prepared financially for the next 30 to 50 years. Rob's going to be throwing out some knowledge bombs, giving us loads of insights on the reality of the situation for many of us, and hopefully giving us some insights into the common mistakes a lot of us are making with our financial planning. Rob, how are you today, mate?
Good morning, Seb. I'm very well, thank you, sir. Yeah, those introductions sound quite good when you write them yourself, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting good at these now. It's like radio here, you know.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm very good. Things are easing up a little bit here in Dubai. People are experiencing a little bit more freedom. What's the situation like in the UK?
Yeah, easing up a little bit. Able to get out on the golf course now in a 4-ball, I think. So we're playing golf this weekend. It's almost getting back to normal. The roads are busy. Everybody seems to be out and about. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Slowly easing back into the physical world, carefully, bit by bit, hopefully.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'm not sure I preferred. I did quite like London in the with less people on the streets and less cars. It was something. While obviously there's a very serious side to lockdown. The flip side of it, there were quite a few positives. I think a slower pace of life, able to think about just a bit more space and time to think about kind of what matters to you, which actually is what we'll be talking about, I'm guessing, a little bit today as well. So, but yeah, slowly getting back to normal.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's that period of reflection, isn't it? And I know that's a lot of what you give your clients. You give them clarity, but also give them that moment where they can kind of pause, look at the future, look at what they actually want out of life, and then ultimately helping them achieve that, right?
That's actually spot on, mate. Yeah, I mean, one of the analogies I describe a financial life. People call me a financial advisor, but really I'm a financial coach or consultant. One of the analogies I use is if you think about your life as a big jigsaw puzzle, there's thousands and thousands of pieces which you could call your days. And a lot of the time we're in the detail, head down and just on autopilot. How often do you actually take a step back and really look at the big picture and think, actually, is my jigsaw puzzle, is my jigsaw puzzle, is the big picture looking how I want it to look? Take yourself back a little bit to maybe childhood or earlier adult life. Are you actually fulfilling the goals that you thought and you always wanted to? So yeah, time to reflect. And this is also a time to kind of refresh those goals and those values. And maybe you've had time to, in lockdown, as a lot of people think have, to kind of refresh and renew those goals. And just maybe post lockdown, one of the challenges I've been speaking to a few clients about is, do they actually ever want to be that busy again? Getting the tube into Canary Wharf, and the answer to the question is no, they don't. So we touched on lockdown and whatnot, giving opportunities, and I think it gives an opportunity to refresh your purpose and your sense of kind of what matters most to you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just been a huge shake-up of normal life, hasn't it? And in the UK, a very different situation to Dubai, but in the UK with the furlough system, with the government support, a lot of people who are getting the same salary but not working at all, they're almost experiencing what financial freedom actually is, right? Not doing the daily full-time work, but getting the same income and covering their living expenses from that, which should potentially free up time so they can go and explore things they're really passionate about.
No, spot on. I agree, mate. Yeah, it's an opportunity. In all crisis, there's always opportunity, isn't it? We know that as business owners. So it's no different here. Yeah,
definitely. So Rob, tell me a little bit about the sort of common mistakes people make, because one of the things I often think about whenever you and I chat is there is so much to think about, which I'm out there busy doing stuff, keeping busy with businesses and family life, and you don't really realize how the smallest change that you make now can impact the next 40 years. And I don't just mean from, you know, an investment point of view, but I mean from a protection point of view, security point of view, all these different things that come into what it is you actually do with your clients. So it'd be great to kind of, I know we won't be able to go into everything like like a half-day event, but it would be good to you know, to get the kind of rough idea of the typical problems or mistakes people make.
Yeah, okay, Seb, no probs. I think the first thing to say there is a lot to financial planning. And I think the reason people get overwhelmed, and in some ways, believe me, building a complex financial plan for a client can at times feel like it's overwhelming the advisor, let alone the client, because there are so many different aspects to a financial plan. So, but to try and simplify it for you, there's really 4 key pillars or 5 key pillars. If you add in the life planning element, you've got your purpose, which is your life planning. You've got the plan itself. You've got products, and you need a set of investment principles, and then you need to review progress. Now, within the product side, there are 4 pillars within products. You've got your tax, you've got your investing, you've got risk management, which is early mortality or illness or accident or sickness, and you've got estate planning. So to summarize all of that, you've got a big picture kind of financial life plan. Everybody's got in their head, you know, what they want to do, what they want to buy, when they want to retire. But there are many different products, services, and risks within the actual product side of what we do. So it's no wonder, I think, that it can seem a little bit overwhelming. To try and simplify that, though, even further, if you think about the best financial plan in the world, it's probably a simple one. And a simple financial plan is that you spend less than you earn, you save the difference, okay? You invest in global equities, and you set and forget. You get on with living your life. So it can be quite simple. If you just take a helicopter view, but people do get mired in detail. So to answer the question on common mistakes, I think we've again always trying to simplify things with people so that they can actually move forward as opposed to get a little bit lost. What we do really, if you boil it down to it, Seb, we help people retire and never run out of money, basically. Whilst living ideally a lifestyle that they want without compromise. That's what we do, is retirement planning. Now, what does retirement even mean, like today? I mean, to you, why are you 30, mate? What does retirement mean to you? Like, yeah, it's fair.
I think I'd be really bad at being retired. I think I'd probably end up finding something to fill all my time with.
Yeah.
or I just do my wife's head in. I think she gets sick of me after the first couple of days, right? I can't imagine my dad retired, so let alone me.
This is it, mate. You know, it's like a very kind of successful business owner said to me, I did a talk once on, what was it on? It was I think it was a VC firm, and they were talking about how to sell your business. And I did a talk about what to do with the money after you sell. And the 3 problems to keep that conversation going that we see is people either retire with no plan at all, a bad plan, or a wrong plan. I'll give examples of them in a second. Yeah, but this chap comes up to me after, and he goes, I did have a plan, Rob. And it was this. It was to basically sell the business, put 33% into stocks. So no, it wasn't actually 33% into real estate. He was going to leave 33% in cash as a buffer, and he was going to put 33% into small companies. So I said, okay, that's a good investment plan if you like, if that's what you want to do. And I said, how did it go? And he said, well, I actually ended up investing 100%, in fact more, because he leveraged some of his money into small companies. Right. And I said, how many have you got left? So like, he's investing in tech startups and the like. And he said, I've got 5 left out of 50. Wow. But the funny thing, well, it's not funny. It's not funny that he was still laughing. And I was told by the person who organised the event that he's still, quite a well-off person. So you don't need to feel sorry for this chap. But the point was, I said, what went wrong? And he said, I ended up being my wife's, what did he put it? He said, I ended up being my wife's housekeeper. but like second in command, because she runs the house. She had run the house for 40 years.
Right.
He didn't know what the hell to do with himself. He was a successful entrepreneur who had had businesses his whole life, and then
just
65.
became a nuisance at home, basically.
Yeah, and so he had to find ways to distract himself effectively, and he went back to what he thought he knew, which was business. But he ended up investing in a load of businesses that really weren't anything to do with his skill set. So yeah, in terms of the common mistakes, a bad plan would be, let's say, for example, that chap there who's investing into the wrong
pure speculation.
Pure speculation, yeah. But a more common bad plan, which I see a lot of, is somebody who's overpaying for equity investment. Yeah. So we're talking about mutual funds, active management, so-called passive investment management. If you're overpaying by just 1% a year, okay, of your assets, then that can cost you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds in total income in retirement. So the average kind of actively managed portfolio, for example, costs anywhere from 2 to 3% a year. Yeah. But you can buy global equities for next to no money at, say, 0.24 or 0.22%.
So an index fund through something like Vanguard or HL or something along those lines? Yeah,
God forbid, not HL. But through Vanguard, who are an amazing company, then yeah. So I mean, our total cost.
What's wrong with HL? You're not allowed to say. I've got HL watching. They're in the group.
Hargreaves Lansdown.
No, I'm joking. They're not really.
If they're in the group, we're coming for you. Look, our value proposition is much more than kind of investment management. If you're 100% in control of your emotions, and you're not going to be distracted by, let's say, the HL top 50 fund list, or let's say a less trustworthy kind of financial advisor in Dubai who's trying to flog you a product all the time. If you're 100% in control and on it, then you can manage your own money. No problem, for next to no cost these days. You can buy the whole world for almost nothing, which is ridiculous if you think about it. I always tell people, if you buy the whole listed world, so Apple, Facebook, all the way down to small listed companies, you'll have, every morning that you wake up, you'll have about 43,000 CEOs go to work for you.
Yeah, I love the concept of this, because it's very much, if you look at, I mean, we had Jason Grayson on the other day, speaking about investing in something which is constantly decaying, like property, as opposed to something which is constantly growing, like business or stock shares. Yeah,
I mean, what I talk to people about is how do you optimize basically your time, your money, your energy, and your talent.
Yeah.
The biggest asset everybody has is their human capital, which is the time, the energy, and the talent. Like the stock market ain't going to make you rich. It's just, it's not. It can keep you rich, and it can get you rich. Correct that with a caveat slightly. It can get you rich slowly.
Yeah.
But it ain't going to make you rich like in a year or two. But for very, 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 very few people, that's possible, because all you need to do is focus on the time, the energy, and the talent, and optimize that. And if you invest sensibly and smartly and give it time, like, for example, an index fund which buys the whole listed world, I just think it's a great kind of concept to have in your mind, that you can buy effectively every single great company in the world for about 0.2% of what it costs you to invest. And have 40,000 odd of the best, inherently the best business people in the world. Yeah. By virtue of getting to that level of corporate success. Imagine the quality of these people. The board level they operate at, go to work for you.
You're basically collecting the best team and putting them to work, right?
Yeah. I mean, what does it cost you to hire don't tell me any figures, but what's it cost to run a small business, like a small business of 12, 13 people? Maybe about 500K, $1 million a year, something like that. Yeah. But you can invest in every great company for almost no money.
So the way you kind of approach it with your clients is, rather than seeing it as a let's use investing to get lots of wealth, let's kind of use it as a way to accelerate our savings.
Indeed, yeah. Well, you need to invest money, people. Another type of so we've covered the bad plan, if you like, which is paying too much for your investments. That can, if you just overpay 1% a year, that'll cost you, we estimate, about 250 grand over 30 years retirement, say from 60 to 90. That's a bad plan.
Yeah, that's a bad plan.
You don't need to do that. The wrong plan, if you like, would be to not kind of take stock of really what matters most to you. Yeah. So a wrong plan is that chap I mentioned before. In a sense, he got it wrong. He didn't really think about what he was going to do on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
While his wife's doing the
I mean, you talk about it, retirement's one way of getting to that point, right, where you reach financial freedom. But for a lot of people, if they reach that even earlier through business or through investing, whatever it is, they're in that place. They haven't planned for it. They haven't planned for, what do I do with all my spare time, right? So many people I've known who have become financially free. It's like, well, what are they going to do with all this extra time? They've been throwing themselves at solving problems and become addicted to solving problems. They get all this free time. They're like, what do I do with it now? And it's almost depressing.
Retirement's a big health risk at the end of the day, because if you don't transition carefully and properly, there's clear risks to health. If you look at research from the Mayo Clinic in the States, I don't want to get too morbid, retirement's already got a bad name, turn people off. But if you lose a sense of purpose and direction, then you end up getting bored. And some studies have suggested that once you get bored, then you're in a state of dis-ease potentially, and dis-ease will eventually lead to disease and quicker death potentially. So I mean, it is quite, I don't want to turn it into a morbid conversation, as I say, but you can flip it round and and think about it positively and say, well, if I am financially free, all I need to do is figure out actually what are the stuff, that jigsaw puzzle, if you like, of my life. You're the director of your own master movie, if you like. So what do I want my life to look like? And everybody's got things that make them feel fulfilled and happy. And so it's just a case of syncing up your capital with your goals and your values to create a good life. That's it. So the wrong plan is basically just not doing that and retiring without putting much thought or effort into it. Now, the reason people do that, I think, like that chap before who sold the businesses, is because it's a scary bloody event. I've never been through it, so I can't really. I'm only 37, but I do have experience of helping clients through it. And some of them have told me that they wake up on the run up to retirement in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, thinking, what am I going to do? So I understand it's scary. Me and you are too young to really appreciate it fully.
A massive transition.
Yeah, it's like you said before, people can get addicted to making decisions and being a business person. And that's a good habit in a way, because it means you're moving forward and you're developing yourself as a human being as well as developing your business. But good habits in work life, if you like, from say 20 to 60 can turn into bad habits from 60 on. For example, constantly saving, spending less than you earn, right? Is a good habit, and saving the difference, good habit. But then in retirement, that 40-year good habit, the habit of a lifetime, you could say. Could turn into a bad habit if you are never spending your money, because
if you live frugally and you die a very rich person without having much fun, right? I mean, and that happens. You know what I mean? It's like it's good. It's trying to get people to understand how much money is enough for them is what I do basically. What's the number? And then encouraging them to go in. And at times inspiring them to come up with new ideas to go and live the life that matters most to them. So this is when you spoke about finding your number. I think I might be jumping the gun a little bit, because I know that's part of your process. It'd be great to to dive into your process, if that's okay, because I think that would be really valuable.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, the first part of the process is life planning, and life planning is quite simply me sitting down with my client and just asking them what's important to you, Seb. Like, why have you come in? Is there anything urgent? And then shutting up and listening. Why are you actually here? Because coming in to see me is probably a bit like taking a trip to the dentist. Some people. If we're honest,
you hate it or you love it. Actually, do you love it? Do many people love the dentist? I don't know.
I don't love it. No, I definitely don't love it. I'm not bad as some people. But yeah, do you love it?
I like our chats. You're not as bad as a dentist.
You once said to me, I make financial planning fun. I've always remembered that.
You make financial planning fun. Yeah, you can put that as your slogan, really.
But that's what it should be. You're talking about using your money to give you money's just a tool to give you a great life. So why shouldn't financial planning be fun?
Yeah.
So you come in, we sit down, we have a conversation about you. What might be good actually is if I were to ask you a couple of questions, how I would normally do that. You don't have to answer them, but these are the type of questions that your listeners could ask themselves.
Yeah, sure. So if you're watching, definitely. Yeah, I mean, do like a sort of reality coaching session, guys. If you're watching at home, grab a pen and paper, and this might be a really healthy exercise. Actually, if you haven't done anything like this before, go for it, Rob.
Okay, so once we've got kind of the immediate need out of the way, if you like, I would just sit down and say, look, the point of what we do is trying to sync up your capital with your values. And really what matters most to you, Seb. So the first question I've got for you is, let's say you go outside after this meeting today, you put your card in the ATM and you see on the screen that you've got more money than you're probably ever going to need. Okay, so we're not talking like Jeff Bezos 100 billion, but you're completely like sweet. You're like, okay, great. This might be from a business sale, or it might just be from inheritance, whatever. You're never going to have to worry about money again, is the point.
Yeah.
So just ask yourself, what would you do? Where would you go?
Yeah.
What would you change? Now the second question I typically ask when it starts to get a bit more difficult, and this time you go to see your doctor, and he or she shocks you with the news that you've only got 5 to 10 years to live. So the bad news is that you've got only 5 or 10 years to go. The good news is that you're not going to feel any pain. Okay, so you're not going to feel sick or ill, but you are not going to know. There's not going to be a final day when your time's up.
I think I prefer the trip to the dentist, to be honest.
Yeah. So, but this time it's going to get worse for you, mate, because this time you haven't got infinite resources. You've only got the time, the money, the energy, and the talent that you have sitting in that chair now talking to me.
Right.
So the question now is, what would you change today, knowing that?
You've only got 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
What we're trying to do is get to the heart again of what matters most to you, right? Now,
like the title of this talk, right? Put purpose to your money.
Yeah, indeed. Now, the third question is where it gets really tough. And this time you go to your doctor and he or she tells you you've got only 24 hours left to live. Now, this isn't a question of go and speak to family or jump on a plane or do what you need to do in the next 24 hours. You can sort that out later. This is a question of, as you look up, as you kind of face your own very, very real mortality, ask yourself, who did I not get to be?
Who did I not get to be?
Yeah, what did I not get to do? Where did I not get to go? And the answers to these questions really start to boil down for you who you really want to be.
Yeah.
You know, what do you really want to achieve in your life? Taking that big picture kind of helicopter view of your life puzzle.
Yeah.
It's a chance to just make sure that you're either on track and you're happier that you're on track because you've got more confidence and clarity. And if you're off track, it's opportunity to make some changes.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. These, I remember doing this exercise with you a while ago. I think it was about a year and a bit ago. And I did it with my wife. She did the same thing. And it was so interesting to see how our answers were quite different, because you have so many open conversations and chats, and you think, you know, I could totally guess that answer. I know what she would say, and she would do the same thing, right? But until you kind of stop and think and go through it in this way, you know, it really gives you insights, powerful insights, which can cause a change. It can be a catalyst for a change in your life, right?
Yeah. I think some people might be thinking like, this guy's like a hippie financial advisor. I was once called what's it called? One dude called
financial life coaching.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's financial life coaching.
Yeah.
The product advice is like at retirement. Do I go draw down? Do I take an annuity? Do I take whole of life insurance out to pay inheritance tax, or do I just let the kids? You know, all that stuff. The product advice becomes easy if you've got, you know, what matters most to the client.
Totally. If
you build a plan around it.
It's the same with business, right? If you know what your values are and what your purpose is and what you actually want to achieve, the actual delivery on what service or product you actually sell becomes so clear. It becomes so easy. People get hung up on the product or the service. They don't think about the value and the purpose before they dive into it. Do you know what I mean? So it's such a useful exercise.
100%, mate. And you know, I speak from experience because I went on this course about 6-7 years ago, and it was this listening course from the Kindle Institute, and I went thinking I'm going to get better at my job, going to be a better listener, get clients to talk to me. But then over a course of 5 days, we were asked these type of questions, and we role played, did loads more exercises. And I was amazed that, I can specifically remember thinking, this is actually what life is itself about, because what you would learn and see and hear is two human beings in the kind of the coach and the client scenario, even though it was in a role play environment with other people watching and learning from each other, you still got with this structure and framework, which is the Evoke framework from George Kinder, you still got to the heart of really, really what matters most to people, to the client. Yeah. And it was amazing to see, because instead of talking about money, we were talking about life, basically. It might sound a bit corny, but trust me, it works. And there's no, once I went through that process, there was no way I could go back to being a traditional financial advisor. Just, you know, unfortunately how the industry is taught is to sell products, because it came from the bank days, the bank assurance days. Banks create products to flog to their customers, and then they create a sales force, which is what you've still got in Dubai. They create a sales force of advisors, quote unquote, to flog the product. Now, over time, how the industry's developed is through competition and capitalism. There have been, and through the ethics of good people before me, there have been ways to move towards planning. So financial planning over financial advice. And the newest movement, if you like, is towards financial life planning, which is the purpose behind the plan, if you like, before you get to the products. So a very simple explanation of my process is it's purpose, then it's plan, then it's products.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. Really, really interesting. Yeah. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of those questions there. It'd be great to hear in the comments, guys. If you're watching this on the replay, if you got any insights from that, if that maybe highlighted something you weren't aware of about yourself and actually what you want to do, Like we've been talking about, right? This is this lockdown and the huge change kind of gives that moment for clarity, for giving you an insight and actually to making a change in your life. So yeah, really, really interesting. Be great to go into more of the strategy now. Like, we understand exactly what it is we want to do. How does the plan then move forward?
Yeah, okay, cool. So once you've figured out everything that you want to do, you put that on a timeline of your life. We then start to bring in the technical knowledge, which is, for example, quantifying how much each goal is going to cost. Now, if say you want to send a child to school and it's going to cost you 30 grand a year for say 7 years, the important point to note on all of the goals is that you need to quantify them and take into account certain assumptions such as inflation, investment growth, school fee inflation, your earnings potential, taxes, etc., etc. So it's not a case of simply saying it's going to cost X by Y date. Often people make the mistake of just having a nominal goal amount of say X, which might be 30k a year. But what you need to do is put all of this together and account for things like inflation, for example. Once you've done all that though, then you can quantify, and this is how you get to the magic number. You can quantify what your dream life costs. And the good news is, and I've been doing it for like 15 years now, the good news is it's never normally as much as what you might think.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's not. It's like, I think it's funny how many people say they want to get to 10 million.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? What is it about 10 million? Oh, that's just enough. I'm like, okay, why? Enough for what? Everybody wants 10 million quid.
Yeah, right. There's no real thought as to what actually 10 million is in 30 years, right? I think with inflation, it's something like 60% less than that, isn't it? It's the buying power is a totally different amount.
Yeah, well, obviously inflation. People, if you invest well, your assets should grow over and above inflation. And so, yeah, you're right. I think what you're getting at there is the fact that you will need less because your assets can grow over and above that rate. But I think the 10 million comes from like, I need a nice house. Maybe you need a second house if you live in the UK anyway, you're thinking I need a nice house in London or wherever I live. I wouldn't mind a place in Spain or Portugal or Mallorca or whatever. And I want to be able to maybe fly wherever I want 4 times a year. And I might have a couple of nice cars, give a bit of money to the kids. And 10 million just kind of fits. But if you
10 million job done.
Yeah, 10 million job done. But like the trouble with that is that you're potentially on a hamster wheel in business and in life, trying to get to a number really that you might never achieve. But I don't think it's that. I think it's more, there's 2 types of people on the behavioral spectrum. There's people who are constantly seeking a sense of security that they're probably never going to feel or achieve unless they get this right. And by say get right, I mean the planning, the life planning and the financial planning right. And then there's people on the flip side of that spectrum who have a constant need to feel excited today, that they constantly spend more and more without realizing that they're risking their future security tomorrow. And we're all somewhere on either end of that spectrum to a greater or lesser degree. So when it comes to kind of this random number that everybody has, the trouble with not doing the planning properly is that you don't really, it's not your number. It's probably your neighbor's number. Yeah. When you go to the dentist, like every time I go to my dentist, he doesn't shut up, to be honest with you. Talks about this new investment or a new car, and it's like we're impacted by the people at the golf club, the book club, the snooker club, etc., 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 and at work, right? And how do you know your number unless you've really taken the time to quantify all of your goals and your values? The answer is you don't. So you've got to do that properly. So the second stage is to then just put that into some sort of sensible model, which is the planning module of what we do, which involves, say, cash flow software. And then you can really get to the heart of the matter for you of what your number is. So, I mean, that's not rocket science either, to be honest with you. It just needs some sensible assumptions around growth for tax, inflation. And then you can work out the number. And then at least you know, if it is 10 million for you, that you're on the right track. But it might be, like, for example, one business example I work with, one business owner I work with, I always use this as an example because it's a great one, because he was adamant he needed 10 million. And we did all the planning work, the purpose work, quantified the goal. And we can literally click a button after we've done all that, and the system, on very prudent assumptions. So we're not like assuming 10, 12% investment growth a year. We're quite prudent of what we assume about the future. Because it's better to undershoot and over deliver as opposed to get to 60 and realize, oh shit, I haven't got enough.
Right.
But his number was 3.2 million pounds. And the great thing about him is he had a business that had a profit of about 700k that year. So, an EBIT multiple of that, let's say prudently again 4 times, he's worth about 2.8. I mean, he's basically financially free, and he was 37, which is my age now at the time. And I could just see the stress drain from him. Yeah. And he was like, really? And this was a guy who I think one of his children had just started to go to private school. He wasn't getting home at 5 o'clock at night. He was getting home at 10 o'clock at night. The relationship between him and his wife was a bit strained because of that. But more importantly, he just wasn't seeing his kids grow up. So free proper financial planning or financial life planning, it's not about the money, it's about the people. So definitely. He's now completely less stressed. He's home at 5 o'clock every day. I think he takes the kids to school in the morning. And I have to catch up with this chap, but I would bet my life on the fact that he's probably more profitable in his business because he's working more effectively and efficiently, and he's living a happier life.
And I imagine that the kind of impact of having less stress in his life he'll be making better decisions. He'll be, his relationships with his clients will be better, and all that sort of stuff comes into it, right? Massively
so, mate. Yeah. So as you can imagine. Can you imagine what that's like for me as the coach or the advisor? That's a pretty cool job to have.
Yeah, right. When you can turn around to someone and say, you don't need to work for 20 years, you can work for 3 years, and you've cracked it. Yeah,
well, that guy now is actually a coach himself. Funny enough, he's a business coach to other people in his industry who want to get to £1 million of profit. So he's actually he sold part of the original business, kept a little bit of it, and now he's a coach because he's doing work that he loves to do, as opposed to constantly working his backside off for a business that he didn't really love. So I mean, I've helped him, which helps. That's the reason I do what I do. I completely fell into this job, but now the reason I do it is to help other people get the life they want. By virtue of that, you get an enormous sense of job satisfaction, which I get quite well paid as well. So I'm able to live the life that I want. So it's a pretty virtuous circle, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It'd be good to briefly talk about life insurance, critical illness cover, that sort of stuff. I know it's
products. Yes, let's sell some products, Seb. Or life planning bollock. Oh, can I swear?
Right, guys, that's what we're all here for. So Rob's not going to sell us anything, I promise. I'll put him on mute if he starts doing that.
No, I'm not going to sell anything.
What fascinates me about this is how there's a lot of expats in our group. A lot of expats who've come here, they've started a business, and eventually they would go back home perhaps, or they see this as home for the next 20 years, and that kind of varies. But a conversation you and I had recently really kind of highlighted how much risk we're at when it comes to not having a protection around your business. So I know that's actually separate to life cover and critical illness, but it'd be good to go into that as well.
It's one of those funny things, protection. I think the industry kind of, the life insurance companies put out stats like there's like a £3 trillion protection gap, which
Right.
protection gap basically means families haven't got any life cover, for example, and if one person dies in the family, like the main breadwinner, for example, whether that's the father or the mother, that has a massive impact financially on a family.
Yeah.
Because you take all of that, the value of your time, your energy, and your talents, in a capitalist world equals money for you and your family, right? It equals income. You take your human capital away from that family, there's no income. That's what you need to protect. You need to protect your human capital. But what the industry tells us is there's about £3 trillion. £3 trillion. I mean, the numbers, trillion is just an unfathomable number, really. It means there's a ton of families that are underinsured or just not insured at all.
Yeah.
So the way to think about this is quite simply, if let's say you've got your purpose set, you've built a financial plan, you've sourced out the investments, you're working hard in a career that you love. I mean, life. We had a friend, one of my best friends from school, passed away recently at 35. Fell down a set of stairs, cracked his head, and he passed away. Unfortunately, like just shock, complete shock. I knew him through my friend. We were playing golf a few weeks prior to that, and he leaves 2 young children, but they are absolutely fine financially speaking. But the reason I tell that story is it's one of those stories when you heard it, you knew straight away something was wrong by the tone of voice of my friend, and he just tried to make sense of it because we try and rationalize everything that's going on upstairs, right? But you can't make sense of it. There is no reason to it. It's just
life just kind of happens.
Life happens, and it's that type of stuff that basically we're trying to protect families against. So the good work that you do, it doesn't all fall to pieces if one of you is not here. So it's a pretty morbid topic again.
We're back at the dentist.
And this is probably this is probably why it's like there's a big protection gap, because let's face it, he wants to think about that stuff for too long. Not me. So my advice to anybody is just to get it done.
I think it's just people just don't understand it, if I'm honest. I don't think people, I mean, certainly for me, I didn't know how much risk I was actually taking by not having certain cover in place or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when it comes into things like inheritance tax and all that sort of stuff, if you die, you could end up by owning a business, you could end up forcing your family into debt. Yeah.
Well, the revenue, the HMRC, even if you live over in the UAE, for a UK born, if you're born in the UK, it's almost certain that you're going to be what's deemed as domiciled in the UK, which means that your worldwide assets are going to be liable to UK inheritance tax, which is 40% effectively on death, over and above some allowances that everybody has. But in essence, if you are a married couple, anything over 650 grand that you have on your balance sheet, your family balance sheet, is taxed at 40%. It is the way to think about it, really. So
pretty unpopular tax, that one, isn't it?
Well, it's also known as the voluntary tax, because with good planning, you can completely mitigate it, because let's face it, you've probably got, touch wood, 70 odd years to plan to get rid of this tax in your estate, which you can do through gifting, business structures, shareholding, kind of, for example. You can do for insurance, you can do for trusts. You don't need to pay, or your children don't need to pay inheritance tax if you plan effectively.
I mean, from a perspective of a business owner who's 30 to 40 or 50 years old, and is expecting to have lots of time to plan inheritance tax and all that sort of stuff coming up, right? Let's just say, for argument's sake, you're a British person, so you're domiciled in the UK, but you live in Dubai where you run a business. If you've got a company in the UK or whatever, and you die, your company is subject to inheritance tax. Isn't that right?
Yes. So, or potentially, yeah. I mean, so what what HMRC will do is when you pop your clogs, day one, so to speak, is ground zero. And at that date of death, HMRC are going to, through the probate process and how your executors of your estate submit effectively the tax returns, if you like, for your life, on your death, for your life assets. They're gonna want to value everything that you own. That includes businesses. Now, businesses might attract what's called business property relief, which might mean that the value of the business is either 100% exempt from inheritance tax, or 50% exempt from inheritance tax, or zero. It's 0, 50, or 100, really. So the nature of that depends on many factors, really, which probably don't want to go into too much detail. But in essence, all of your assets are valued at the point you die.
Yeah.
And within 6 months, HMRC are going to ask for the inheritance tax. So if you've got, say, £1 million in your estate, over and above the nil rate band allowances of 325 per person, 650 for a married couple, and effectively the £1 million taxed at 40%. So they're going to come along, assuming, I should say that transfers between spouses don't attract IHT. So this is effectively on second death, okay, second death planning. Assuming that you've both passed away in a car accident there, or plane accident, God forbid. Jeez, all we're doing is talking about death, Seb, isn't it? But ultimately,
after this one, we'll do a fun one, something really light-hearted. I don't know.
Well, but it's actually really important stuff. Let's face it, because ultimately,
it is.
You don't want your kids to have to sell assets like family homes, second homes, if they don't have to pay tax.
If we're all watching right now, this is the bit where the tooth gets pulled, and afterwards we can all heal up, and it's great news. So we're just we're at the dentist right now, guys. It's all going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah, indeed. So if your assets over above a certain level, HMRC are going to come for their tax.
But what was it how they value your business, right? So if your business is making, I don't know, let's say it's making 100 grand profit, and they value it at a multiplier of 10. Yeah. So they value it as a £1 million business. Then they would tax that at 40%. So effectively, you would have an inheritance tax bill of £400,000. So you'd either have to, your spouse, if you leave behind your family, wouldn't be able to live off the income from the business. They would have to pay that for the next 4 years to cover the debt. Is that right? There you go. That's the sort of questions you want to do, guys. Really throw your financial advisor.
Yeah, sorry about it. I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb, but it just went. Apologies. Probably somebody calling me about IHT.
It's probably Hargreaves Lansdown on the phone.
Yeah, bye. Apologies for that. Yeah, so what was the question?
The question was, if you've got a business in the UK and you're making 100 grand profit in that business, and you die, you leave the business to your wife, HMRC may say, right, it's making 100 grand profit, so we're going to value it as a 10 times multiplier of that. So it's valued at £1 million, let's just say, for argument's sake. They would then put 40% inheritance tax charge on that. So your wife or your husband would be left with a £400,000 debt to HMRC with inheritance tax.
So almost correct, mate.
Almost.
Two things to add.
Okay.
Transfers between spouses are exempt.
Okay.
So if you were to pass away now, and your wife Vicky would not have to pay any IHT, she would be exempt.
If it was to your kids, it'd be different.
If it's to your kids, it's different. Now, the only other thing to add is that it might be possible to tell HMRC, who might accept it, that the business is a proper trading business, and it therefore attracts business property relief. You can get this with farms as well, so you can get agricultural property relief and business property relief. So if you've got a true small business, it's possible that, like for example, people have property in a business, in a limited company. That doesn't qualify. That doesn't qualify typically, but almost never for BPR, simply because it's not a true trading business. It's just an asset business. So between spouses, no, there's no IHT. But if Vicky passed away with you at the same time, effectively in a car crash or plane crash or whatever it might be, then the kids effectively, while you've got minor kids, you're going to have guardians and you're going to have executors of the estate. That the estate would effectively be held in trust for your children until they're 18, and the executors who are not going to want to run a business, that's for sure, are going to probably want to sell the business and release cash, pay HMRC, and just hold the liquid. Probably invest it, but hold liquid cash, which can be easily managed and invested as opposed to run a business. So, we know what's genuinely amazing, mate, is we've just done a sizable estate planning exercise for somebody this week, and I think their estate is something like 5 or 6 million. Really successful business executive. It's actually the daughter of one of our longest standing clients, and what's amazing is that at their mid-40s, they've got that amount of. It always shocks me that they've got that amount of wealth. They haven't even got wills.
Really? Wow.
And it's mad if you think about it. It's like, how have you not even got a will, like even a basic will? And it's just one of those things that I think gets pushed to the back of the drawer or pushed into a cabinet. And I'll do that later, or I'll do that next year. And it's staggering, really, because if they, just on that, if they didn't have a will and he passed away, then the estate would pass by the laws of intestacy, which basically only gives his wife the first 250 grand of assets, and then a life interest in half the remainder. Now that gives the kids the other half life interest in the remainder, but there's no protection for the children because there's no trust, for example, set up that means that at 18 the kids can't get their hands on 3 million quid or whatever it is by the time they're 18, which is really, really, really poor planning. To be deadly serious and truthful, and the truth sometimes hurts, it's really irresponsible of parents to do that, because while we don't want to think about it's going to happen to us, if it does happen to us and we leave behind a trail of destruction, which some of this would do, which I've just mentioned, then it's really dangerous for your kids' health and well-being. We've worked on estates where clients have come to us, children have come to us, and there's been no planning by mum and dad. The most recent one, they've just paid two children in their late 30s, early 40s have just paid about they haven't paid it all yet, but they owe about 1.4 million pounds in inheritance tax to the revenue. Dad passed at 82, mum passed 3 years ago at 78 or so, 77, with no planning in place other than a basic will. But what they told me, the son and the daughter, I never looked after mum and dad, was that mum and dad would never ever talk about it. They tried to get them to talk about it, but they just wouldn't. So it is difficult, and it's an emotion. Money is emotional, as we all know. So it's how do we introduce those conversations to people to get them thinking about this positively, about what this tool can do for you, as opposed to putting it away in the back of the drawer, if you like, or in the filing cabinet and thinking about it tomorrow. Because all of a sudden, like this family who are in the mid-40s with 6 million quid in their estate, or thereabouts anyway. I'm waking up now thinking, wow, we need to really sort this out, because if we don't, not just like for the children, if he was to pass, it leaves his wife open to various risks as well. What if, for example, she gets remarried, because she probably will find somebody else at this age, but that new person coming into the marriage isn't trustworthy, shall we say, or isn't, let's just say it doesn't work out, then the person who's deceased, the male in the family who's deceased, I don't know why I'm killing the male, I've killed the male off. It could be the female who's the breadwinner. There's no gender bias here, but male's dead. He has now got another party, which he's married his surviving spouse. Let's say it's a personal trainer from the gym or something. Not to attack personal trainers either, but let's say the PT's come in from the gym.
On a roll now.
Yeah, I'm on a roll. He's remarried, and then that doesn't work out. The new husband is potentially there, as part of that new marriage, got claim on his hard work, the deceased husband's hard work. So this is again, it's complex. It can be very complex, but it's not that complex to sort out if you just give it a bit of planning and a bit of time, and you get the right advice.
Wow, mate, that's absolutely brilliant. I think I'm conscious of your time, not to go over the hour, but I think you've given so much for everyone to think about here. So many amazing insights and realizations. That this sort of planning is fundamental to everything going forward for a lot of business owners. And often pushed to the back, exactly like you said.
Well, I hope it has been of value. I've got no idea if it has. If you say it has, then that's good. I'll watch it back with trepidation.
Definitely has, 100%. We've got a few comments here. Let's have a look from Jason Gray saying, "Where there's a will, there's a way." I think he was doing that when you're talking about wills. Nuggets of value, Rob. Yeah, 100%. Completely agree. Rob, is there something that you could do to help our community? I don't know if you do a webinar or some sort of special offer to kind of give people who want to get a bit more advice, a bit of a helping hand.
Yeah, so I had this idea before the call, actually, and it's something I've wanted to do for a while. I do strategy sessions with couples one-to-one. So like your mum and dad, for example, I would do a retirement strategy session with them. What I want to do is I want to do that in a group environment. And the reason I want to do that in a group environment is, from a selfish point of view, I am potentially selling one-to-many. But that's not the main reason. The main reason I want to do that is because I think the group environment, when we're talking about purpose and life planning and goals and values and just think about retirement for a second and how scary it is. Remember when I said that chap waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? If we can create a community and do that as a group, I think it will be. I think. Get my THs right. It could be really powerful.
Yeah.
So there's a retirement strategy coaching session I'm going to put on. I want it. While I say group, I want it to be quite intimate. So you keep a kind of level of privacy and intimacy and trust. So my proposition is this: if you want a retirement coaching strategy session, we'll do it up for say 5 couples, so 10 people. If you're single, that's cool. We can still include you. You don't have to be married. But if you are in a married couple or unmarried couple, it's best to do this together, as you mentioned, Seb, with understanding your partner's goals and values can often be different than what you think it is. And it's really important that you do understand your partner and what they really want, because the key to obviously a successful marriage or successful partnership is that you both respect and understand and communicate what matters most to you as an individuals, and then that creates a pretty powerful couple. So if anybody would like to be involved in that first retirement coaching strategy session, then I don't know how we do it, mate, but the first say 5 or 6 couples.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll just write a comment on the group and explain a little bit more about it, and then whoever responds first writes "I'm in," then Rob will contact you guys. Rob, I'll get you in the group as well, mate, so you can speak with everyone. How much would you normally charge for one of those 1 hour strategy sessions?
Our initial strategy session is $499.
So about 500 quid. So basically, Rob's offering our members like 2.5 grand's worth of value there. So really, really amazing. What a great way to end the call. Really, really appreciate it, mate. I think that's going to help a lot of people. You certainly had a lot of clarity and support to my planning. So yeah, really appreciate it. What's the best way for everyone to get in touch if they've got any more questions?
Thanks, Seb. It was really enjoyable. As I said, I think it's the first one. I think I've done something with Jason. I've recorded a few of my own podcasts, but I must say it's quite nerve-wracking, isn't it? And getting your thoughts out is it's easy to get muddled. So I hope it was clear, and I hope it was of value.
Yeah, 100%. Super clear.
But if people want to get in touch with me, then I'll just give you my email address, which you can share with the group if you want, or give you my Twitter handle.
Let me know. Well, this is going to be on a podcast as well, so let me know if you want to say the email address. Then you might get people will find you that
cool.
way.
Okay, but if you want to find out more, go to worldwideweb.wilcocks and wilcocks.co.uk, and that's WILCOCKSAND Wilcocks again .co.uk. I spend half my life phonetically naming my my email address, which is robert@said URL. Just have a look at the website, drop me an email. In fact, the best email is actually the info@Wilcocks and Wilcocks, because somebody will pick that up, and we can start a conversation that way.
Cool, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. And
pleasure.
have a good week.
Yeah, all the best, Seb. Cheers, bud.